Okay, well, it's late at night because it pretty much rained. Well, not late at night, it's only not like 10 o'clock, but it rained all day, so I had to do what I had to do. I bought this throttle cable bracket from Amazon, and that's the brand of it. Let me see if I can get focus on it. So that's the brand of it. And I still need to modify it a little bit. As you see, I fabricated some tabs to capture the cable, but I want to get a longer bolt, and it has a spacer too. I kind of want to make that a little more useful because I don't like the sharp angle of this. And as you see, I got the fuel rails on. It's just the stock fuel rails with 30 pound/hour injectors that you can just find on eBay. And yeah, I had to modify the fuel rail a little bit too, so I'm gonna have to take it off and touch up the paint. But I had to bend this tab in. Then I had to cut a bit of metal to capture this tab, and I have it fastened to, of course, the throttle body, something back here. Then on this side is more of the same thing. Now this one I had to turn a little bit because it didn't exactly line up, and I had to do the same thing, bend it forward and whatnot. You see I chipped some of the paint off because I should have fabricated it before I painted it, but it is what it is. I got plenty of paint. Then same thing back here, I had to cut a bracket out. And I had to round over the edge ends too, because this side looks like it could cut into that line, which I gotta replace anyway because it's got a hole in it. But yeah, I gotta pretty these up, and then I'll paint those black or whatnot, black or silver or something like that. I haven't decided yet. They're galvanized, so even if I don't paint them, they're not gonna rust. But well, they shouldn't rust. But yeah, but that's the fuel rails, and the throttle cable bracket installed. So yeah, and I already tested it, and it does have plenty of travel. And I do get full throttle inside the truck. Just like I said, I want to make this a little more prettier by messing it around a little bit. That's just a stock bolt, and it's a little too short. So yeah, that's pretty much takes care of that. Next thing up is I still got to put the radiator in, but I'm still waiting on the fan to come in the mail. But next thing up is really starting to wire everything up. I still got to put the driver's side header on the driver's side. I got to fix the exhaust because the way I had the exhaust set up on this truck was kind of crappy, and it fell apart. Well, this tube cracked, and that side was fine, but I'm going to have to put like regular pipe instead of that flex pipe. At least coming off the header, I have to put the regular pipe. That hopefully that takes care of that. I got to mount up the igniter, which I'll probably use this edge right here. I'll pull this out because this is not even hooked up to anything, but I'll put the igniter right here. And it's right in the air path, so that gets kind of hot. I got a heat sink for it and everything. I just gotta put it in the fender, and that way it'll be in direct line of the coil. I have the ECU wire coming out over here, plug into there, then from there into the coil. So that and that way it'll be out of the way of the header and everything. It does get kind of hot over here, which is one good thing why I didn't take this tube out, because that will help cool this area side down. Throat's kind of dry, but yeah. I still gotta, like I said, once I wire the Microsquirt in, or Microsquirt actually, that's what I'm using. I could plug it in and start putting a bass tune on it. That way I can at least get fired up when I get the spark plugs and everything, and start adjusting stuff from there. My biggest issue will be doing figuring out the timing curve. I know most smart blocks, like a small block Chevy and stuff like that, it idles around like 12 degrees before top dead center. Then I think about 44,000 RPM or even 33,000 RPM, it goes up to, I think, 30 degrees. I imagine it being the same thing on this. So, like I said, I imagine it being similar on this engine, since it, it's an old school small block technically. But yeah. So I got to figure that out. Then I also kind of want to put a crackle tune on it to where when you get off the throttle, it'll do what it used to do and just pop, crackle, snap, crackle, pop. Maybe have a little bit of a fireball coming out of the exhaust. I'm probably not going to do that right away. I just want it to run safely until I know it's good to go. Then I'll do the aggressive stuff like the two-step, the flat shift, which I may not actually use for the intended purpose. Like I said, the crackle tune. Well, who knows? Because honestly, fuel economy went out of the way when I put the bigger camshaft in and the 4-barrel throttle body. I mean, theoretically, with the 4-barrel throttle body, when I'm only driving on the primaries, since they're a lot smaller than what's on even the stock throttle body for this thing, it's theoretically it would give me better fuel economy since there's less air mass going to the engine. But I didn't pay $600+ for an intake just to do Sunday driving. I want to take this to Mexico a couple times. Even then, drawing more merge on the interstates on specifically I-4 can be kind of sketchy at times. So I want to make sure I got the power to get up to speed. On ramps are about 25 to 35 mile an hour, and you got that whole long stretch that you just got to get up to like 60, 70 mile an hour. So I want to be able to get that done real quick. But yeah, honestly, now that I put the fuel rail on it and the bracket, it looks real good. I know I've been saying that a lot, but the more and more this engine's coming together, the better and better it's looking. I mean, the AC compressor is kind of sad looking, but for the most part, yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna at least take I'm gonna take that all apart again. That way I can kind of clean up and repaint, do another coat of paint on the fuel rail. And I gotta drop the harness down and get that wired up. So yeah, I gotta drop the rotor and distributor cap onto the distributor. Then I gotta figure out what wires go to what for the fuel injectors, the coil, the crank sensor, and the fuel pump, because I want the Microsquirt to power to trigger the fuel pump, mostly for diagnostic reasons. Obviously, the stock one could run that as well, but I don't. Now that's probably not a good idea. Now I'm thinking about it, because if this ECU is not getting a crank sensor, it's not going to get it's not going to tell the fuel pump to fire. So I'm going to have the Microsquirt trigger the fuel pump. Then stock ECU is going to power the coil, the fuel injectors, and the crank sensor, just to eliminate any issues with trying to tap into an ignition hot source. And what else? But the Microsquirt's going to trigger the coil, the crank sensor, and the fuel injectors. Then for the other sensors like the idle air, the intake air, the water temp sensors, TPS, MAP, the Microsquirt's just going to take care of all of that. Because they required 5 volts and Microsquirt's got that on board, so. And I think the fan will get tapped into an ignition hot over here as well. But yeah. So once I get that all situated, I'll let you all know. Anyway, I'm ending this video off here. I already went on like a 10-minute rant about what the future plans for this truck are, or the future video of this truck when I wire up the ECU and how I'm going to do it, and of course catch you all up on all this over here. You know, y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. My username's in the description. Be safe, have fun, and don't forget to tip your waitress. So today's one of the bigger days. I finalized the fuel rails and everything, how I'm going to do them. They're all tightened down. I kind of figure that this is fine for the throttle cable to be kind of off like that. It is enough to where this is pointed pretty much directly where it's going to pull, so I'm not worried about that no more. But yeah, I'm going to start wiring up the EFI stuff. I've already started modifying the igniter to fit, because for some reason, because this is a MSD igniter, HEI igniter, which I think is a little bit bigger than the regular igniters. I think, I don't know. And this is a heat sink for it, but the holes didn't exactly line up, so I just enlarged them. Instead of slotting them out, I just enlarged them, and it should work. There's a little raised spot on the fender. There's a raised spot right here on the fender that I'm just going to zip it down. That way it's directly in line with the coil. And water from here will sit like that, plug it to one side, and of course that. I got the wiring diagram for this. When I get it installed, I'll let you know about it. And it fits almost perfectly on there too, so it's almost like as if it was made for it. Obviously it wasn't, but it's pretty pretty cool. For the EFI stuff, like I said, it's a Microsquirt, similar to what I used on the Datsun. Yeah, it's just a simple ECU. It only supports batch fire, so I'm only going to use the crank sensor since it's only batch fire only. Since it's batch fire only, I only need to use the crank sensor, if that makes sense. I don't need to wire up the cam sensor as well. I'm only using a single coil. However, this does support coil and plug for a V8, though that with wasted spark, which I may or may not do later on. I kind of doubt it, because I don't feel like making a mount for coils or anything. It will cover up my valve covers, and I don't want that. I'm that shallow. Oh yeah, so it's like regular spark coming out of the coil package to the distributor, and etc. Over here is the wideband. It's the brand new model, and it's just a regular the gauge, controller, the sensor itself, the extension cable. This is a PC cable for logging, but I don't need that since the Microsquirt does that already. And of course the power cable and data cable. I also got the bezel for it that goes on the A-pillar inside the house. I kind of forgot it, but I'll deal with that later. Right now my main concern is getting this thing wired, putting this in the header, then really mostly getting everything wired up. That's my plan for today. So I'm gonna finish putting this the igniter over where it is, then I'll put the ECU in the glove box, because the glove box I think would be a perfect spot for it. Because theoretically, yeah, I could put it behind the stock ECU, but I'm worried about water, and that is semi water resistant. I don't want it to be exposed to too much water, so that is something for me to figure out. Anyway, plus it'll be better to be inside the truck while you're tuning it, because the lead that comes out there for tuning, it's only like that long, and you got the extension cable for it. So yeah. Anyway, let me get that all figured out, and I'll pick up where I left off. Alright, see you in the next clip. Alright, so I'm back to work on the truck, and I finally got the hole cut for the wire harness. I wanted to get a different grommet though, because the one I have is too small. I had to cut the hole a little bigger than what I wanted to, but I'll deal with that later. To make things a little easier, I temporarily zip tied the harness, the EFI harness, to the body harness. It's kind of split down the middle. That way I got half the sensors on this side and half it on that side, to make wiring a little bit neater. When I get it all done, I'm probably going to have it down here somewhere. But yeah, just starting to wire up the injectors, and I wanted to confirm what wire is what. And this green and orange wire, that's, I believe, the 12-volt positive wire, and the other wires, the negative wires. So I have to connect this wire to these other colored wires and leave these green and orange wires alone. On this side, I'm doing the frontmost injector. On the I'm gonna clarify a little bit better. On the INJ1 wire, alright, I'm doing number 1 and number 5 for on the INJ1. Then on the INJ2 wire, I'm doing 3 and 7. Then it's opposite on the other engine, on the other side of the engine. On this side, INJ2, which is this blue wire, will be 2 and 6. Then 4 and 8 will be INJ1. That's how I'm doing it. And of course, all the other wires are all labeled where they gotta go, where they go. But that's how I'm going to label make the wiring work. So let me get all that done and figured out. And also, the Microsquirt's got 2 different grounds. I have one already grounded to the body up here, and the other ground I'm probably going to ground it to the motor. Got another bolt on the back of the head, or I'm probably going to use one of these valve cover bolts to ground it off at. So that's how I'm doing it. You don't really want to stack both grounds on top of each other, because I think the way the switching works on it, it might interfere with the way it works. That's what I've been told. All the connectors I'm not using I already chopped off. So, yeah. Anyway, let me take the sheathing off all these extra wires, and I'm going to slice into these, cut the half and splice into them and wire everything up that way. I already got this tapped into this one. I'm going to solder the excess that's coming off of this wire. I'm going to figure out how much I need, which I think like that, if not actually less. And I'm going to take that little excess and just splice it in, just solder it into this connection. And I'm going to get some heat shrink to cover it all up. If not, I got extra green wire in my shed I could use, which is probably what I'm going to do, because I don't know if that lead's going to be long enough. So I want to make sure I got plenty of harness. But yeah, that's pretty much how it's going to work. This wire right here, ignition out 1, is the one that's going to be used to drive the coil. So it takes care of that. I might have to extend this wire a little more than what it is. So I kind of want to have it come up or around all here, then down, make it look a little nice. It's a VR1 wire that goes to the crank, and this VR2 wire, if I have to use the cam sensor, this is what gets used, as far as I know. The spare ADC goes to the stepper controller for the idle air controller. Same thing with the F idle and something else. Oh yeah, the mass airflow, which I forget. This one, the MAF wire. So those 3 wires, as well as 12 volts. But I'm probably going to tap into the injector to do that. So I need to switch 12 volt ignition as well, and a ground. So probably I'm going to do that. I'm figuring it out as I go. And of course the TPS wire has a TPS lead. Same thing with the map. It has a map lead. The coolant has a coolant lead, which I got the coolant temp sensor thingy right here that I've already spliced into it from before. I'm hoping I got enough. This one goes to the coolant temp lead, and this one goes to the sensor ground. I'm going to make the sensor ground terminate at this connector, at least on this side, because I also need to tap into the intake air temp lead as well with that. And on this side is 2 sensor grounds, fortunately, so the other sensor ground on this side will go through the TPS, the map, and probably the ground for the shoot, what's it called? Idle air. There it is. Anyway, let me get this stuff mocked up and ready to solder. Alrighty, so I kind of got it started how I want it. Kind of give y'all a better idea of what's going on. As you see, this is the INJ2 wire. It's going to cylinder 2 and 6 on this side, and on the other side, the driver's side, INJ1 was on cylinder 1 and 5. So that's how it's going to be. I'm probably going to move this wire over down here a little bit further, make it less of a mess right there. But that's pretty much how it is going to be. I still got to get a little bit of wire to go from here. Yeah, to go from here to injectors 2 and 8 on this side, or 4 and 8 on this side, and another wire going from here to injectors 3 and 7 on the other side. I got green wire, but I don't have any blue wire, but I got some white wire, so I'm going to have to do it like that, unfortunately. Technically right here I got enough wire on this to just go straight there, but I'm not going to do it like that. I'm just going to have the wire coming out and into here, then terminate here. So yeah, I got hopefully I'll have some extra conduit left over. I still got the conduit that goes over there. It's on the floor. I'm hoping with the main harness I got some conduit to kind of cover up that side and make it a little neater. That's hopeful, wishful thinking, but hopefully I could do it, figure it out like that. I think while I'm in here, I'll probably fix this, though I'm not too concerned about that. So that's pretty much it. Let me get that stuff mocked up. Then after I mock it up, I'm going to undo it and I'm going to solder it in and heat shrink it. I think I have to buy some heat shrink, but I'm going to do all that. I'm going to try to do it as correct as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% correct, but correct enough to where it doesn't give me any issues. That's why I'm thinking about going back in and tearing these cam locks off, or whatever the hell they're called, toolless crimps, because they're working, but I think the issue with those is that moisture gets in there and corrodes everything out and causes an intimate connection. I think that's the problem with them. I mean, obviously I haven't had that issue, but I don't want to experience that issue. So yeah, I'm gonna get everything all set, the rest of everything set up now. That way I could get the injectors mostly done, and I'll figure everything else out as I go along. I've decided I'm gonna put the map sensor over here, only because there's enough space right there for it. I just got it moved over there for now to just be out of the way. But that's how I'm dealing with the map sensor. I'm just gonna probably zip tie it to here, and that way I only have this short little hose run to go. The stepper controller for the idle air, might do a similar treatment, but up front, which is how the wires I need to go underneath in between the valley pan plate and the bottom of the plenum. But I'm not exactly sure. So I'm not sure how that will look. Though honestly, I don't think you'll be able to see it once I put the air cleaner on. So it is what it is. I've also capped off this one for now, for the AC vents, until I get everything running just right, and I'll connect them up in case I gotta fix the vents from me being underneath the dash. But for now I just got it capped off. Anyway, let me get this injectors wired up, or mocked up with the wiring, then I'll figure everything out from there. So I got all the injectors wired up. When I say wired up, I mean like they're where they're supposed to be. So yeah, when I just gotta, like I said, solder them in and put the heat shrink on them, clean it all up, make it look a little prettier. But yeah, like I said, this is 1, 2, 1, INJ1, INJ2, 1, 2. And over here is 2, 1, 2, 1. So they're staggered. and hopefully that way works. It's supposed to. But, yeah. Next thing I'm gonna do is get this coolant sensor taken care of. This is gonna be kind of hard to get in and out of there. And get that taken care of, and I'll probably take care of this intake air temp tube. This one right here, I'll take care of that one as well. And I'll figure out how to wire this coil. I'm probably going to take some of that white wire. That way it gives me enough room to take that wire whichever one it is. I think it's this one right here. You make it go all the way up and around and down. That way I don't have a freaking single wire coming all the way over this way. It's bad enough I want to have this wire coming all the way over. Well, at least that makes more sense than having a wire come from the middle and all the way over. Especially on top of this header. So I'll get all that taken care of. And on the other side, I'll get the map sensor wired in, and the TPS. So yeah, I'll be right back. See you in the next clip. Alrighty, guys. So I got it mostly wired up. Like I said, I haven't soldered or de-shrunk anything yet because I'll just mocking everything up for now to see where I want everything, and I think I got it figured out. Is it perfect? No, but I think it'll perform its function. All these wires right here I'm either not using or just don't have wired up right now. I still got to wire this to the crank sensor, but yeah, so I just got these tucked out of the way. There's still some wires in here I need to wire up the idle air valve. I just haven't done that yet. But yeah, passenger side looks pretty good. Like I said, I'm gonna do everything I need to solder it up. And I'll put that conduit back on. And I'll pretty much take care of the passenger side. The driver's side is a little more chaotic because the map sensor and TPS sensor both have leads. And they're kind of hella long. Looks like this one came apart on me, but so I'm going to have to figure this out a little bit more. Like the map sensor's right here, but yeah, so I'm going to have to figure that out a little bit more. But for the most part, I got it pretty much all figured out. Once I put conduit on everything, it'll look a lot more presentable. Anyway, that's it for today. Tomorrow I'll finish wiring everything up, and solder everything together. And I'll put the battery in. I can't start it yet because I don't have the spark plugs in yet, and even I don't have the coolant or even the new oil. So tomorrow I'll get all that done. I'm gonna start it up. I'm gonna put the battery in and turn it to the on position. That way I could kind of load up the tune and everything, load up a tune, or set the parameters so I can load up a tune or do a tune on the laptop. You know, all that stuff. I still gotta tap into the fuel pump wire, the fuel pump trigger wire right here. That way I can have the Microsquirt control the fuel pump instead of stock ECU. And that's not going to be that difficult. I just got to get into here, pull it apart, and you know, splice the wire in. Not a big deal. But for the most part, I mean, it's not that hard to do. Everything's pretty much labeled. You just got to know where you want to put everything. So yeah, I've also got the ignition wire for here extended. However, I think I made it a little too long, so I'm probably going to shorten it up a little bit more. But I'll figure that out when the time comes, because I still have to drop that whole harness down where I want it, which is pretty much going to be draped across the transmission. As long as it's out of the way, as long as it's out of the way of anything moving, I'm fine with it. So who knows? I'll figure that out when the time comes. I might even just have it like that, but then I don't know, I kind of want it a little lower, that way you can't really see all that. I'll figure it out. I'm mostly going with function over form, but I still want a little decent, halfway decent. So I still gotta wire up the coil too, which that's not gonna be too bad. So anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Alright guys, well I jumped forward ahead of it, because otherwise it would have been pretty rambly. And I got pretty much everything wired up, minus a few things. So as you see, I got the harness coming out of the firewall over there, going around and over. And I'm not going to exactly explain how I got everything wired up. I'm going to link a video in the description to someone that goes over it. Though his video's on an LS engine, most of it still applies to a Magnum, minus a few things. Like a Magnum, an LS engine, they're coil unplugged, where the Magnum, it's distributor based. So you only need one of the ignition out sources. Right here is the ignition one wire that's going around into a GM igniter into here. This is to a ground, and of course these are the positive and negative for the coil to fire the coil off. And also with the LS engines, you can get away with just a crank sensor, but on the Magnum engines you probably could. But I went ahead and used the cam sensor as well. So you use the other the VR2 wire, and you tap into you splice that into the lead for the cam sensor. Other than that, everything's pretty much identical. Over here is a little more messier, only because I got the freaking map sensor in the way. But yeah, so the map sensor's right here, it's plugged into the intake. The TVS is right here. Of course, the other injectors. I got the idle air hooked up, although this wire's a little stressed, but yeah. So I got the idle air hooked up. I think I got it right. I'm not exactly sure. If it works, it's great. If not, I just have to move the wires around. Not a big problem. And yeah, I still got to hook up the power to the ECU, as well as the wideband to it. Then of course power to the wideband. After that, this thing will be live. I'm supposed to get my spark plugs tomorrow. So yeah, pretty much that. I'll drain this oil. I'll drain the oil, put the spark plugs in, put the new oil in, new oil filter, and see if I can fire it up. It's been, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also having the Microsquirt trigger the fuel pump. You gotta figure out which fuel pump, which wire goes to the exciter coil and the ground side, because the Microsquirt switches the ground for the fuel pump. So you gotta figure out where that wire is, that way you have the Microsquirt trigger the fuel pump. Because with the stock ECU, if you let the stock ECU trigger it, you'll prime it. But since it's not getting a crank sensor, a crank signal from either of the crank sensors, it's not going to fire the fuel pump properly. It'll just prime it and that's it. So, alternatively, you could do something completely different with the wiring. Like, if this wiring turns out the way I wired it doesn't work, I'm willing to just get a switch panel with the manual start, where you flip the 3 or 4 switches and hit the start button. I'm prepared for that. However, I kind of want it done right, where, you know, you just turn the key on like a regular car. But, you know, worst case scenario, I could always put the switch panel on here somewhere. Not exactly sure where, but somewhere. Like, I could put the start switch right here where the overdrive switch used to, where it still is. And probably have the switches on this side going down. So that is an option, and the key would just be to unlock the steering wheel, and it'll turn on the radio and stuff like that. Like I said, I don't want to do that, but I'm prepared to do that if I have to. I still got this port blocked off because I'm going to wait to make sure that the AC system actually works the way I have it wired up. Because if not, then I should have done the other way in the first place. But who knows? I'm hoping that idle air controller will be enough to keep the idle up when I turn the AC on. So, here. As you see, I got a mess here. I got to clean up. So, hopefully this will be running tomorrow. Then I'll take it to an exhaust shop to get the exhaust done properly. So, I gotta clean out inside the cab. Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it off. Not sure if I'm going to make this a full clip or a full video. I probably will. I'll probably make this a full video. But if I do, you all know what the drill. You know the drill. Be safe. Follow me on Twitter. I'll use things in the description. Pay attention for that link below. So I'm going to put that video up. I'm going to link that video in the description for how to wire up a Microsquirt. And y'all be safe, have fun, and don't forget to tip your waitress. I gotta clean up. I'm getting hungry. Time for dinner.